Hi, I'm Amy Wilkins, leadership coach, former media exec, and your host of Thriving in the Messy Middle. This is a space for women leaders navigating those in between seasons, the moments when things feel uncertain, stretched, or messy, and you're trying to find your footing without losing yourself. Some episodes are conversations with remarkable women leaders sharing the lessons they've learned along the way. And other times, it's just you and me, slowing things down and naming what's really going on. Think of this as a place to reset, reflect, and reconnect with what matters most. Because thriving isn't about having it all figured out. It's about learning how to grow, lead, and move forward, even when things feel messy. Today's guest is someone who is rethinking the way we work, create, and lead at a time when so many people are running on empty. Jean Batthany is the founder of The Art of the Pause and a pioneer of what she calls regenerative creativity, a way of working that restores energy rather than depletes it. She brings more than 30 years of experience at the highest levels of creativity, including serving as the first chief creative officer at Walmart and holding top leadership roles at the Walt Disney Company and leading award-winning work at some of the most iconic agencies in the world. Today, as a fractional chief creative officer, she collaborates with mission-driven leaders and brands to help make the world more sustainable, equitable, and beautiful, while helping organizations create cultures where ideas and people can truly thrive. But what makes Jean's work so compelling isn't just what she's built, it's what she's questioning. And we're going to dive into that in a moment. So, Jean, I'm so thrilled to have you here today.
Amy, I'm so honored to be here and humbled by that generous introduction. So thank you for having me.
It's all you, girl. It's all you. So, you know that I've been following The Art of the Pause for a while now, and I love everything that you're creating. But before we dive into all that, is there anything else that you want to share about yourself that I left out?
I'm a mom as well. I describe it as having adult-ish daughters now. So my daughters are 26 and 23. So that's always the biggest job that I have. I'm happiest in, on, and near the water. So the beach is my happy place. And yeah, definitely leaning in right now, balancing my time between fractional chief creative officer, chief brand officer, executive creative director work, and balancing the pause and really leaning into launching it as a creative wellness platform and putting regenerative creativity to the test. And yeah, it's that originally from New York. I now live in Santa Monica and life is good.
One of the places we always like to start is hearing a little bit about a messy moment that you may have had along the way in your career. And I know we often have more than one, especially if we're moving, right? But is there one that stands out for you that you'd like to share?
I would say the messiest moment was when I was at Walmart as the first chief creative officer. And so being the first, there was a lot of pioneering to be done. So it wasn't for the faint of heart and they move fast. And after I was there probably almost 2 years, and after two consecutive quarters of negative sales, there was a massive reorg. And that role, my role, was eliminated. And it was the first time in my 30 plus year career that I've ever had that experience. So I climbed for 30 some odd years to get to the top of the mountain, the chief creative officer role. And so not only did I feel like I had the wind knocked out of me because I wasn't prepared for it, but I felt a lot of shame and fear and just as that happened, I would say days later, I was still reeling for what's next. The phone started ringing right away. And just days later, my dad was dying. He had been in hospice for 14 months, very sick for 5 years. But my mom, who was a tough Irish mother, matriarch, was like, can you come? And she never asked for help. So I flew down because I could to Virginia because I wasn't working. And I literally held his hand as he was taking his last breaths. And I saw his time run out. And it really gave me pause with what do I want to do with my time? Knowing where I am at in my career and my life and what's left of my time. And did I want to keep climbing up the mountain? Did I want to keep leaning in as we've been so conditioned to do? Did I want to keep tipping over? I'd experienced burnout a couple times and pushed through because you can't stop, won't stop. And I made a radical decision in that moment to press pause and to do nothing, which was really antithetical to the way I had worked my whole career and the way that I'm wired. So it was a moment in time for me of I don't have to know what's next. And I'm going to take time to rest and reset and recover. And the interesting thing about it is when I wrote that obligatory LinkedIn post, which home of the humble corporate brag, it was different than usual. It was, I'm leaving Walmart, but I'm not going anywhere. And I explained more about what I was going to do and how I wanted to take time for my mental, physical, and spiritual health and to love on my people. And that post got almost 1 million impressions on LinkedIn, and thousands of likes, comments, and shares. And it told me in my messy moment that I had hit a nerve, that I was not alone in this burnt out epidemic. And I just had the self-preservation, finally, self-awareness, or as I said, the gift, the universe decided that wasn't for me, and to rest. And a lot of people were like, yes, we need that. And so it motivated me into the next chapter.
Wow. I love that. And I get it. I've been there where I've lost a role, and actually something similar similar, not the same. My dad had been diagnosed with Alzheimer's, and I was let go from a role, and my mom needed help because she needed some urgent care that she had to take care of. And it was like, all of a sudden I was like, oh, here I am. I can do that. And I love this stopping for a moment, right? And I'm just curious if you could share a little bit more about what you're seeing. What are we really getting wrong about that need to be just productive and moving all the time? What can we learn from that?
Yeah, we live in a capitalist culture of toxic productivity. And so there's that system. And then I think we also a lot of us tend to suffer from toxic resiliency. And I think there's the system versus our own operating systems. And I grew up in an industry that was very much a boys' club. And I was often the only woman at the table. And I think one of the things that drove me was to prove that, yes, I can, and I can help others and pull them up. And we needed more diversity around the table in leadership roles, and that from a creative and a marketing lens. But I think at the same time that drive to an ambition to say, yes, I can do it, also puts us in a place of I'm going to push through and show. And we glorify the grit and we wear the badge of busy, right? I certainly did. And I think we're rewarded for it. Oh, I didn't sleep. Let's look how busy I am. And I think when we feel other or less than, or we have to chronically prove ourselves, so survival of the fittest and the toughest, and then this lens on the more you work, the better it's going to get. And that's not always true. And I think when I think about resiliency and when it pushes into toxic resiliency, is even athletes know that when you're pushing, and I think being an executive and a leader, you're in the like super athlete mode. You have to be running like a super machine, right? And athletes know you have to recover for resilience. You have to rest between games or matches. You have to do all the physical things that help bring you back to your peak performance. And we push through the signals our bodies are telling us because we can't look weak, we can't slow down, we feel like rest is a reward for our productivity. And what I've learned on this journey is the science. I love it. There's art in the pause, but there's also science in the fact that research has shown that when we take not I took a radical sabbatical. There's that, but these micro pauses, when we take consistent short breaks, it helps lighten our cognitive load. It helps enhance our creativity and actually boost productivity. So pausing isn't just this woo-woo personal indulgence, right? It's proven way to reduce chronic stress and to perform actually better.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'm curious, the pause that and how important that pause is that you take in between roles, right? And regardless of how the role ended, I think too often we jump back into something new and we drag all that stuff, that toxic energy into the next role. And so we actually already walk in with armor on, preparing to defend ourselves or support ourselves in this new role. And so then you're already tired. You're already going into that drained, right?
It's such a great observation because one of the reasons, like as I mentioned, my phone starts ringing right away about roles. And I'm just like, okay. And you think from a scarcity mindset, like I've been the main breadwinner, single mom for years and all of it. So it's like, I can't stop working. So like, where's the next paycheck? Where's now how do I survive and all of that? And part of the pause and the intentional, that first pause was, wait a minute. I wasn't happy. Here's the catch was I worked my ass off to get to the top of that mountain. And I realized when I got to the top of the mountain, not only is it like the air is thinner and there's not a lot of space and it's hard to stay up there, but I wasn't finding joy in the work. I wasn't feeling like I was like bringing creativity and the future and innovation. Some of it was really working and some of it wasn't. And I was like, I have done this to myself again because I was invited to the role, because I was flattered by the potential of the role and the title and all that it brings, the societal standard of success, right? What external forces say success is, or our society says. And so for the first time, I was like, I don't feel right. I don't feel like I'm being my best self at work or at home. And I want to take a minute to pause, right? And pause and reflect on what I want my next role to be. I like to describe it as the art of the pause allows you to stop and breathe. That's the most important thing. We don't breathe enough. And practice the art of the pivot into where you intentionally want to go next, not what comes your way. And yes, it's great and it's flattering when things come your way, but I worked with a purpose coach after I left Walmart because I was so like, what was making me feel excited and alive was the work that I was doing to create impact. So the work I had done at Disney to help to stand up Brave, which was our marketing diversity equity guy initiative to reflect talent on in front of and behind the camera to better tell better stories and connect better with diverse communities that we serve. That really, and then that started with a gender equity initiative and then moved on to intersectional diversity. And we really leaned in hard through the Black Lives Matter crisis in our country. And like that lit me up. And then one of the biggest reasons I went to Walmart was the intention for storytelling for purpose and to lean into their purpose pillars that they really weren't telling the stories from the inside out to evolve from a transactional company to an emotional brand. And they had really good stories and really good intentions and pillars on sustainability and regeneration, on equity, social justice, on small businesses and being in the community for the community. So that was the part that I was excited about. So I worked with a purpose coach to really be intentional about how to shape that. And that work was really transformational for me to really get in alignment with my assignment, my life assignment, right? And to pivot towards what makes me feel excited and alive and pivot away from what sucks my energy and steals my joy. And because life is too short. And I really think when you take a step back and you go, okay, success for me is control of my time and the luxury of time and really my health and my wellness and my people. So I worked with a good friend and someone who was doing what I wanted to do. We're working in the purpose marketing business, Abdelaziz, and just focused on what my life vision, what I wanted my life to look like on a beautiful day, like without any restrictions. And I worked on what my superpowers are, and that was really interesting to get feedback from other people. And worked on what kept me up at night, what I wanted to work for. So
Yes.
that just that time, I could have jumped right back into the matrix, if you will. And
Mhm.
the time away really gave me time to reflect and notice what wasn't working for me personally and the systems that I was in, what wasn't working, and really created the pathway to the art of the pause, which then created the philosophy of regenerative creativity.
That opportunity to take a moment and also know that having someone help you through it could help you would support you, right? I think that's one of the things that I'm consistently wanting to ensure people know is that when we go through those times and it feels a little messy and then the path forward maybe doesn't feel as I don't really know exactly what it is, that having somebody do that work with you is so powerful. We don't have to do this alone.
No, and I think so many women in particular think they can't show weakness and they can't ask for help and I've got to do it all. And even the first time I got an executive coach was at Disney, and I thought, oh, it was because I wasn't doing well. And then you start to realize, no, executives get coaches, and that's how they move forward. And Strata have a thought partner and a growth partner. So massive advocate for coaching.
Yeah. Such
And sometimes the path will reveal itself, right, in the work. And this, we do so much work for brands, for clients, for agencies, for all of it. And thinking about ourselves, the work we do on ourselves. Part of being creative is staying curious. So I just look at it as being a lifelong learner, and some projects are never done. This one definitely isn't.
Yeah. And that's the good news, right? Imagine if the project was done. Right? That would be pretty boring for us if we were complete and everything was wrapped up and tidy. Tell us a little bit about regenerative creativity.
Yeah. I'm really excited about regenerative creativity, and it's been a process of, again, learning and discovery. When I was One of the things I did on my pause was leaned into learning. And I got my motorcycle license, and I also got certified as a regenerative practitioner. Two examples. And this idea of keep doing things that you haven't done before, stay curious, novelty, adventure, and do things you're not good at too. The regenerative practicing program was, I was working with a potential client who had a property in Costa Rica, and he was developing as a regenerative beta town, if you will. Like, it was going to be a resort, it was already a farm, they were going to build a whole new town structure. And how does that work? It was such a mind-blowing potential of innovation and exploring what an ideal regenerative society could look like in this piece of land. And so he heard me speak about the art of the pause and burnout, and he said, what if there was a regenerative marketing and a regenerative creative component that lived alongside my business? And this is not going to be my only regenerative business. And there's this flywheel of regenerative thinking that then becomes the larger system. It's regeneration is design. It's very much based on systems. So I studied with his mentor at a group called Regenesis, and I thought they were good. I was going to be able to take the 7 laws of regenerative farming or engineering or architecture and translate it into regenerative creativity, and go, I'd be done. It wasn't. It was very humbling in the sense of it was very philosophical and theoretical, and very much the wisdom keepers helped share it and then workshop it and develop it. So it was this really beautiful program of testing and learning and coming together and co-creation. And in the learning, and I was like the art student in the back of the class with architects, engineers, and social scientists. And it was just very reaffirming of what felt wrong in the systems I was working in. And that this idea of toxic productivity and that extracting creativity from fear and scarcity, right? Like we extract things from the land and we leave it barren versus with abundance and flow and generosity, right? And so this, the simplest way I can describe it is like regenerative farming. It's a season for fields to lie fallow and seasons for growth and abundance. And applying that to it doesn't mean that I'm going to work in September and I'm not going to work November through January. It's not seasonal like that. But it's the concept of how are we resting and replenishing our creative soil and taking, we started talking about it recently, like a pregnant pause, like that pause for things to grow in. And when we don't have space to be bored, to rest, to replenish, to regenerate our own system, then you're not going to get a lot out of it. And it's interesting the way that the art of the pause was born. One of the things I started doing on my sabbatical was walk on the beach every day. I'm going to get up and I'm going to do my 10,000 steps and I'm going to blue sky thinking with this and all the blue health from the ocean, all the positive. I'm grounding in the sand and I'm breathing with the waves and my nervous system is calm. And it's just there's a reason why they call it blue sky thinking, because it really opens you up. And I swear, Amy, I got a download. And I'm like, the art of the pause. It's creating time and space to be more creative. And especially at a time like from stepping away from my leadership roles and corporate and agency life was it wasn't the work that was killing me. It's not killing me, but it was like destroying my soul. It was the lack. I love the work. Like I am the kind of person who gets high from creative ideas and creative collaboration. Like I could feel it in my body. But there was less and less time to be proactive and strategic and more and always reacting. What are we reacting to? Very fear-based, which we're in a very fear-based society right now and industry. And so this like, how do we create the safe spaces, psychologically safe spaces, and the physical containers of space and time to do better, to think bigger, to solve big world problems, to come together in that way. And I think we're in a place where there's mega mergers, mass layoffs, and the fear of AI coming for our jobs. So the world and the industry need creativity and human ingenuity more than ever. That's our superpower. Return to human, right? And so we're human beings, not human doings, right? So sometimes we just need to be, and we need to fill our cups, and we need to rest our bodies or move our bodies for rest. So there's so many things to do that it's been really interesting to work on. I'm working on this book, and I'm working on the facets of the art of the pause, and regenerative creativity is just such a big component of it, and putting it into practice. And I feel like I was doing it without trying to do it without calling it that when I was at places like Disney and what we're building at Walmart, in the sense of create a system within a larger system, which is very regenerative, and bring people back to their original source of inspiration, and to leave people in places better than we find them, right? The goal being evolution, right? And like, how do I build systems where people can continue to evolve and products can continue to evolve without me being there? Step out. And that's the regenerative growth model. And it is creating with, not for. We're not pushing creativity at people. We're collaborating around the table. It's building guilds of creatives to come together and in community. And it's more local than global, to be honest. It's like really being in your community and looking at place and people as the priority.
Yeah. Yeah. It's what does it look like to be really engaged right where you are, right? What would you say to those who say, I don't have time to pause.
I would say I feel you and I see you. Been there. I think it becomes daunting to think about how much time we're maximizing everything right now. Maximizing is a big trend. You're going to maximize your wellness and maximize this, and I'm going to keep going. I think I always start with breath, right? Do you have 60 seconds? Do you have 60 seconds to stop what you're doing, or in between meetings, or before that big call, or before a decision, and really focus on your breath and get back into your body and out of your head and calm your nervous system? It's like all our cortisol's firing, and and we're ruminating, and we've got our to-do list that never end, and we go to bed and we're still thinking about it, and we're really not resting, and then we get up. And I think it's really like, start with breath, start with 60 seconds of breathing. And then I also look at we have 24 hours in a day. Can you take 1/24th of a day and make it yours? Whether that means you're going to move your body, you're going to do something creative for creative sake, not for any output. Are you going to get out in nature and hike or walk? Are you going to be in community? Are you going to just all that simple, meditate, read, get off your damn phone? And I think starting there, and what I talk about with people is like, how many tabs do you have open right now? Like, we all think about like, my desktop is a mess, and you think about your brains, and we're the queens of multitasking, and we're rewarded for being great multitaskers for women. Women can get so much done at the same time, but it's really bad for us. And it's hard to stop doing what you're being rewarded for, and when you're getting the cookie for that, right? And so many people need us. And I think there is a perceived sense of being selfish if you take time for yourself. But it sounds so cliche, but you cannot pour from an empty cup. You cannot take care of others when you're at a deficit. And what is going to happen is your body is eventually going to shut down in different ways, or your mind is going to shut down because it can't do it anymore. It's sending you signs. Like, we've all felt the signs of, I don't know if I could do this anymore. I really don't. And like, I'll give an example. I was at Disney, and it was a real shock to the system going from agency to brand side. And it was by being dropped in a foreign country. I didn't know the people, I didn't know the culture, and I didn't know the language. So all of my neurological things, and I've been moved house and moved family again across the country. And I learned that a lot about them and me, a legacy brand with a culture of fear. And then so I got into perfectionism mode, and I was over functioning, overachieving, over delivering to prove myself. And a recurring theme for me was this proving myself at every place that I would go and every project I would go. And this, again, it comes from that perfectionism. So I think it's our responsibility as individual leaders, and then as leaders of people, to take a really good hard look at ourselves and what kind of culture have we built for people, and what kind of standards have we set for ourselves. And if you can't stop, why? Like, why? And I think, when all the balls are glass, nothing can drop, right? But they're not all glass. Some things can drop. And what are really precious and what you really need to be careful with, how are you empowering others to grow your power? And like, where are you going when you need it most? And being okay with not being included in every meeting. So I was trying to see everything. I had a global team. I didn't want to be the block in the pipeline. It was this perfectionist mindset and this fear culture. And I got to a point that I was having panic attacks, and I was sitting in my car outside of my house after a day. And I'm like, I don't think I can do this anymore. But I knew I had a house full of people inside my family that I'd moved across the country. And I said, this is what I want to do. So we're all going. This is what's good for the family. And my reputation, my job, all of it. And it was a moment where I was like, my body was telling me I had to do something, right? And so I was very grateful. My older and wiser sister was like, dude, go get your hormones checked, because this could be something. This could be, yes, burnout, yes, panic attacks, yes, whatever, but your hormones could be in flux, and it's a really transitional time. And lo and behold, all my hormones are completely low and out of whack. And I was perimenopausal, menopausal. And I learned that affected my capacity for stress and dysfunction, if you will. I thrived on dysfunction and volatility. That's why I think I did so well in advertising, because that's what it's based on. But what my doctor explained to me is, as your hormones drop, your cup fills faster, and then it's got no place to go and it spills over. So I only add that in because I think it depends on the season of your life that you're in, but it's also, if you don't stop a little bit, you're gonna have to, something's gonna make you stop. And isn't it better if you do it, as I think the art of the pause, and why I'm so passionate about it, is that I've learned it's a daily practice. Yes, it's beautiful to take a long time off, but it's a privilege. I was privileged to be able to do that. And I've worked a long time to be able to do that. But it's having a morning practice where you start your day in a healthy way and with time for you. It's having an evening practice that you are able to shut down and stop work and stop with the to-do list and end the day with gratitude, so you don't go to bed with an anxious mind. So I think those really simple practices of, don't start your morning on your phone. Start it with your morning pages and write your thoughts out and clear your head before you do anything. Or start it with a meditation, or start it with a walk, and end it on YouTube. So like little tiny things.
I love that you said that, right? Because the reality is, when we say I don't have time, the reality is we don't have time not to pause, because it will show up, right? Physically. It'll happen in other ways that will just stop us in our tracks. And I've had that happen to me throughout my career at different times, where something was like, right now, we're just going to give you shingles so you can stop at 35.
It's so
Who gets
stress-induced,
yeah.
right?
It's all stress induced, right? And it was, that's what your body's doing. You know what? We're going to stop you. So that opportunity to look for, and I love that you're sharing small things, right? We can start small, but if we start to build that practice of slowing down and creating that morning ritual, and even that evening ritual, and those moments throughout the day, the power of breath, right? It's so incredible. Jean, I really am so excited to see what else you create out of this platform, because it's really needed right now. Is there anything else that you want to leave our listeners with?
I am desperately trying to finish this book that I'm writing, and I'm inspired by you, Amy, and a podcast in the works. The podcast concept is talking to people about the art of the pause and the art of the pivot. Tell us how you either jumped off the mountain or got pushed off, and where you went from there. And I declared 2026 year of the beta. And so since I'm a recovering perfectionist, I am going to beta Art of the Pause workshops and Art of the Pause retreats. So those are both in the works now. And as well as developing a curation of products to help you pause, and principles, connecting them. So probably too many things. And what I'm learning is that, okay,
one at a time.
Yeah. And they hit submit I recently did a TEDx talk on Art of the Pause. And I'm excited to see that come out and see how it's received. And so stay tuned for that.
That's so great. I'm sure that anybody who's hearing this is going to be looking out for everything that you're creating, those retreats, those workshops, and certainly the TED Talk when it comes out. Thank you so much for being here today, Jean. I can't wait to share this with everyone.
Thank you for having me. Really honored.
Thank you so much for listening today. I hope something you heard gave you a little clarity, or maybe just a sense that you're not alone in this season. The messy middle isn't something we pass through once. It shows up again and again, and each time we meet it with a bit more awareness, a bit more choice, and a lot more self-trust. If this episode resonated, follow the show so you don't miss what's next. And if someone came to mind while listening, share it with them. That's how this community grows. You'll find links and resources in the show notes, and more ways that we can work together at chooseaw.com. And I'll leave you with this reminder. You are the most worthwhile project you will ever work on. So until next time, keep thriving, even in the messy middle.